Hey you guys, it's me, Crystal, and I decided after my sad writing update in my last video, sad literally, that I would do like a proper like writing update and talk a little bit about NaNoWriMo and then like a general like update on everything and whatever. If you didn't see that video, I did win NaNoWriMo. I updated my word count Friday night, which was October 29th, at about 53,000 words. And I was happy to win Nano, but I wasn't happy about my story, and I was happy to be writing because it had been a while since I had been writing regularly. But again, I wasn't happy with my story. So I was working on a story called The Puppet Box, which is just a paranormal book. And I originally voted spring 2017, and I actually have an entire video where I'm talking about that the book just fell apart and I felt like I was losing my mind. And, you know, these things happen. And so for some reason, I decided that, oh, you know, this next step in my writing evolution and my writing journey, I should learn how to rewrite something from scratch. And I don't know why I thought that, because I have been writing for a while and I've never rewritten anything from scratch. And so it's like, I don't know why I thought now, you know, 20-something books in, why it would be a good idea to rewrite something for the first time, because it's like, obviously this is not something that I want to do, or I would have done it already. Like, I've rewritten scenes and, you know, sections of stuff, and I've even rewritten like half a book one time, but it wasn't like a from scratch rewrite. And so I was like, I want to do a from scratch rewrite. So outside of the opening chapter, everything else in the story was going to be different, and so I decided to start rewriting The Puppet Box, which is Puppet Box version 2 or 3. For some reason, I have 3 versions, not including my Nano version, and my story graveyard folder. Like, I literally have a folder on my computer called the story graveyard where, you know, first drafts, second drafts, you know, however many drafts of things, where I just keep up with everything. So therefore, if I delete something and I'm like, oh my gosh, what was that thing I deleted, I can go save it. And also, if I write a book and I hate it, I can just bury it. But anyway, so I decided to start working on, I guess, The Puppet Box version 3 earlier this year, I think like April or May or something. And I got somewhere between 23 and 30,000 words into the draft, and I realized it still wasn't working, and so I said to decide again. And then the week before Nano, like literally the Sunday before Nano, I woke up one day and I was like, you know what, I think if I just take the story and I just write it a certain way and I just take a risk and go for it, then I think it'll work out. And so I decided to do that story for Nano and finally rewrite something from scratch, and, you know, learn whatever writing lesson I need to learn from doing that I thought was so important. And it's so funny because the quote on my calendar, like, I make like a calendar of like, you know, fun fantasy art and like quotes every year. And so the quote for November was literally, take risk. If you win, you will be happy. If you lose, you will be wise. And I was like, that's good timing in a couple different ways. But anyway, long story short, I feel like the lesson I learned is that it is okay to completely let something go. And it's so funny because it's like, another thing that's funny to me is that a couple weeks ago, or like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I don't know, it was sometime last month on my blog, I said on one hand I have too many ideas to be like fooling around with stuff that isn't working, but then on the other hand I thought that it mattered that I was still thinking about a few of these stories. And I realized the problem that I was having was that I messed them up and I just couldn't let them go because I really liked them. But it's like, if those ideas are good, if they have any usable merit at all, you know, they're not going anywhere, and I can always go back and rewrite them later or do something with them later. And so it's not like I move a story to the story graveyard and it's like gone forever, but we are going to be digging up a corpse and reanimating it, which is really gross. And it fits into like the way I look at writing, because I look at things like I'm Dr. Frankenstein. And so I take all these random ingredients, all this random input, and I put it in a pot. I put it in a crock pot, and then when it dings, I take the top off and there's a story inside. But sometimes you have a creation and it's like, okay, I did something wrong. And most of the time I just move on. But lately I I don't know if it's like input from the writing community, because I've been through this before, like about 7 years ago when I first started blogging, and got, you know, and I was on writing forums, and I was around a whole bunch of other writers for the first time in my life, and there would be all these people, and they're like fighting for their stories, and you know, and they've been working on the same story for like 3 years, and it's so important to them, and they love it so much. And I was like, wow, I don't think writing is that hard. Why is everybody saying writing's hard? Am I doing something wrong? And so I made things really difficult for myself. So around the time I wrote the Pepper Box, you know, about a year before, I don't even think it was a year before, I think maybe about 6 or 7 months before I wrote the Pepper Box, I started watching like AuthorTube videos. And again, I found myself around all these people who were like plotting on whiteboards and corkboards and, you know, note cards and sticky notes, and they're, you know, they're talking about Save the Cat Writes a Novel, and they're doing all these what I consider to be very difficult things. And so I started thinking, oh my gosh, I'm doing something wrong. And so then I started looking at all these stories that I had finished, and I was like, well, there's got to be something in here that I can fix, right? And so I became I'm OCD, so it's not difficult for me to like go to a dark place with thinking too much. You know, and so I did. I started becoming very obsessed about finding something to rewrite, because I felt like I wasn't fighting hard enough for any of my ideas. And you guys, it's because I literally have hundreds of ideas, and it's like I do not have time to be messing around with something that's not working. And so it's like you can either fix yourself somewhere in my subconscious, or you know, you can go to the graveyard. So I, of course, take 100% responsibility for this, because it's like, this is kind of the problem with kind of existing in a bubble, because I didn't have like a lot of writers to talk to for a long time. And, you know, there's comparison syndrome and all these things or whatever. But yeah, my takeaway from doing this rewrite is that it is 100% okay to not fight for something that is making you miserable, that feels super hard for some reason, that you just don't want to do. Like, if I don't want to work on something, I don't have to work on it, and it's okay to let things go, and it's okay to write a story and it's bad and not do anything with it, and I don't have to edit everything, you know? And of course I'm sad, because it's like, I did really like this idea, and I did really want it to work out, but it didn't. And the important thing is that I'm able to pick myself up and move on to the next project. So I also got to do better about listening to myself, because I, even, again, referencing my blog, not even like 2 or 3 months ago, it was sometime like earlier this year, I was talking about some rewriting plans that I had, because I thought it would keep me focused, because like I was just all over the place. I was changing the story that I was working on like every other week. Like, you guys, I'm not even joking, and it's a recipe for crazy making, not the good kind. So I was talking about my rewriting plans, and when I was talking about the Puppet Box, I was like, I'm pretty sure this idea is a dud, but I'm going to try one more time. The famous one more time. And yeah, I wrote it, and I wrote it the way I thought the story needed to be written. I don't think it's complete trash, but it is not good enough for me to do all the editing. Like, I love editing, and I'm not being like sarcastic. I actually really love editing, but it is also a lot of work, and I just didn't think it was worth it, and I didn't want to fool with it anymore. And I'm like, can I just set it aside and move on? So that's why I went ahead and finished the story, even though I didn't really have the energy for it. I was like, I'd rather, you know, have a crappy last chapter in the story than drag it out another month only to write a crappy last chapter just to get it over with. Anyway, when I started writing, though, when I started working on the Pepper Box for NaNoWriMo, I felt like my writing muscles were like really stiff, because for the better part of the last 7 years, I have been writing pretty regularly, you know, and this year, it was just a bad year for writing, and it's okay. Like, I kept burning myself out. It was coming, you know. If you're going to be reckless, then there are consequences. And so I can't just, you know, keep going and not getting any sleep and pushing myself too hard for no reason and expect, you know, not to fall apart. at some point. So I have decided that I'm going to draw out my planning process, because normally I spend like maybe a week, you know, working overtime, like planning and, you know, doing all these things. And I'm like, I feel like I need to slow down. So I'm going to listen to that, listen to my writer's gut or whatever, and slow down a little bit and see if I can get back to like a state of homeostasis. And so I was all prepared to go through all, whatever, 200 something of the ideas that I have floating around in my brain somewhere that I have written down to my knowledge, and an idea just popped up. And so I was like, hey, this is exactly what I look for. I look for a story that just kind of taps me on the shoulder, and they're like, hey, you know, and it just popped up. And so I was like, hey, I hadn't thought about writing this story seriously since I got the idea, because I literally had nothing. When I started thinking about it, you know, some things were coming together, and so I'm like, okay, it's been baking, so maybe I have something here. I don't know, we'll see. So I am focusing on another idea. I don't know what genre to call it right now. I'm just calling it, it's a futuristic story, or maybe like a futuristic urban fantasy. So anyway, so I carry this around with me when I'm taking notes. Isn't this cute? It's a book sleeve, but I put my composition book in it. So this is a composition book that I'm dedicating to this story, and I got this at the grocery store, you guys. Like, this is so pretty, and I also have a blue one that looks like this, and it's collar jeweled because I like collar jeweled. But this is what I'm going to be planning my story in. And I also decided to print out another Preptober workbook, because I can also use this for not NaNoWriMo. So I decided to try getting it printed in black and white, and so it looks like this. And then I'm currently working on the, you know, working through the workbook. And one of the reasons I'm doing this is to elongate the planning process, and also because I want to like get some things organized in my head before I start writing things down in the official like note-taking notebook. Plus, filling this out is just like super fun. So, and the new idea does have a lot to do with why I'm feeling better, because like it's hard to fill down when you have a shiny new idea taking up, you know, most of your brain space. So, and I have had that idea for a while. I don't know how long I've had it, and what I had written down was like, it was literally like, it wasn't even a sentence. It was just like some keywords and like a basic description of the character, and that's all I've had. I don't know, we'll see, but I'm really excited. So I feel like this video is too long, so I'm going to wrap it up here. So that is all for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video, whatever that's going to be. And yeah, hope you're having a great month, and